All right, everyone, disclaimer, my gripe with Black Panther has nothing to do with the all-black cast, so you can, not jump down my throat with the bigotry comments. It has to do with the fact that I'm not a superhero movie fan at all. Like, it doesn't matter what the cast is. It really doesn't. Here's the thing. Here's my thought about this. Because the other day, apparently, one film critic left a negative review of Black Panther. And because it's become sort of a symbol of Black Power movement or something, I guess, because the movie is somehow important for race relations, people were really, really upset, I guess. And, supposedly they were upset. Really what it was clickbait bullshit. And then a bunch of these, like, B-tier sort of magazines and e-magazines and stuff, they were like, oh, the fans are furious, so they don't understand why someone could possibly rate the movie negatively. It had a perfect score. It deserves to be considered the greatest film of all time. It's better than Lord of the Rings. It's better than Star Wars. It's better than Ben-Hur. It's better than Papillon. It's better than The Producers. It's better than everything. It's the greatest movie. It will win every award. And trust me, I imagine it's going to get all sorts of awards, absolutely. That's because it's basically affirmative action, the movie. Here's the problem. You are essentially saying that a person is racist for not wanting to enjoy a movie that's just corporate, mass-manufactured slop like any other. You're saying that people, that there's a problem with them if they don't want to go in and watch some nerdy flick that's just a bunch of CGI. It's just a soap opera plus $100 million of CGI. That's what any Marvel or DC film boils down to these days. I can't think of a modern superhero film that I particularly enjoy. I think and the Batman franchise is basically the only one that's retained a significant enough amount of the grittiness where it really qualifies as a good filmmaking, generally speaking. And even then, you're hit and miss. You have to go back several decades to find, movies that, because they used more classical animation, they didn't have all the CGI stuff, they focused more on acting. They focused more on, hey, we need to make the plot enjoyable and, somewhat believable. We need to have good effects, which back then meant, Superman swinging around on a rope like Tarzan or something. And by the way, the only period, really, of comics that I was ever really into was the Bronze Age of comics, the darker stuff. Sort of the gold, silver age stuff, like Superman and, America #1, I'm punching Nazis, basically. That's not really that good. And then after the Bronze period, you sort of get into some of the postmodern bullshit. It's not really as much fun. Some of them are fun. But the comic books are more fun than any of the movies that they're making. It's just mass manufactured. You're calling people racist. Rotten Tomatoes comes out and says, we're going to look into the accounts of people who give it a negative review. Like, that's not fucking 1984 crazy bullshit right there. It's going to cause you to get rated. Like, it's probably going to end up with a 0% freshness rating from the little people. Because, there will be a difference. It's going to be one of those movies where the critics don't dare to say that it's bad because they don't want to be perceived of as racist, because this is the first all-black modern superhero film. Woohoo, therefore you must like it. You are forced, you are compelled to like it. Well, people like me don't have that problem. I really don't care about, if some far leftist says, well, you're a bigot because you didn't like the movie. Well, you're going to call me a bigot anyway. In all honesty, if you step out of line at all and into wrongthink, if you sway away from the establishment just a little bit, you're a thought criminal, you're a racist or controlled by Russia. So I'm used to that. I get to see that shit firsthand because I happen to be on YouTube. So it's not exactly going to faze me. It's not going to faze the average person watching this video, but it will faze the critics. You see, they're afraid that they're going to get fired. They're afraid of getting deplatformed from their jobs at their magazines or whatever. Like this, I think it was, can't remember her name, that left the negative review yesterday. Yeah, she'll have people leaving threatening emails at her office and stuff. They'll be telling, every firm that platforms her, hey, you need to get rid of this racist old white bitch. That's essentially what they're going to say. I can guarantee there'll be thousands and thousands of emails and phone calls to that effect that pour in to these various outlets because of this. And it's becoming a problem. Because, number one, it's not fair. Number two, it's not accurate. It's bullshit. Number three, people don't even realize how fucking stupid they sound when they're saying that race it even enters into it. It's not. It's just corporate bullshit. It's a $100 million budget style worthless movie. They make all sorts of movies like that all the time. It's like with Ghostbusters. Did Rotten Tomatoes ever come out when Ghostbusters, the reboot so-called, which means the Ghostbusters, hey, we ripped off our own fucking material movie and gave it a female cast and updated the humor, which means we made it 1/10 as funny. We made a shitty movie. We're not even going to make the sequel because, everyone agrees that it's shitty. When it was put out there and it was getting attacked on Rotten Tomatoes by people who were like, what the fuck, it's not funny. It's not humorous. It's not even Ghostbusters. It's just a bunch of bullcrap. They didn't successfully reboot like Star Wars did by having older cast members aboard for like a last hurrah to sort of transition, the audience to new characters, to have that sort of development. Star Wars did it right, more or less. There's still some bullshit there, but I see the latest Star Wars. The Star Wars reboot was a lot like A New Hope. Let's just say that. It even took place largely on the same fucking planet. In fact, it was basically the same storyline with updated graphics. But they successfully rebooted the franchise because of the character development, the storyline. It was more than just the effects. With Ghostbusters, they didn't. They fell flat. And a lot of it was people were claiming, if you don't like it, you're sexist. If you criticize it, you're sexist. If you don't think it's as funny as the original, you're sexist. If you don't appreciate the vague lesbian relationship stuff, you're a sexist. And that argument fell flat, but Rotten Tomatoes never came out and told people, hey, we're going to look into your account and say, if you gave Ghostbusters the rehash a bad rating, we're going to kick you off the fucking platform or take your review off because you must just be trolling, because how could you possibly not like it? Does Rotten Tomatoes want to essentially destroy its own site? Because that's the way that you destroy your own site. You get it to the point where it becomes clear that if a production studio gives you a big fat check, you will prevent people from actually using the site's functionality in regards to that video. I can remember when the trailer, I believe, for the Ghostbusters rehash, I can remember when people who were calling it out, they got their accounts attacked, actually, at the time. Their videos, I believe, were put in restricted mode. Or were taken down, a lot of it related probably to metadata. The thing being, of course, Sony agents probably accomplished that. Are you going to have a situation where you've got all of these comic book execs who make millions of dollars and, they don't really care about the fans or the franchise being authentic. They're not themselves even comic fans. They're just businessmen. Are they going to come out and start sending the goons after anybody who leaves a bad rating on Rotten Tomatoes? Like a lot of people, they're just going to give it a low rating without even bothering to watch it. A lot of people will probably do what they did with Ghostbusters and refuse. It'll boil down to a racial issue because of Rotten Tomatoes really making it one. Oh, if you leave a bad review, the only reason you could do that, it's not that you didn't enjoy the movie. You had to have liked the movie. You just don't like that it's black people. It has nothing to fucking do with that. It's just bullshit. People were pointing out on Twitter when I said, well, it's going to be a bullshit movie. Oh, it's based on an actual comic book. You don't think that the comic books from the authentic original gangster period of comic book making didn't rip each other off? There are only a certain number of storylines in the world. There are only a certain number of situations you can actually have your characters in. Even when you introduce superpowers so you can kind of warp reality and say, oh, they're not really dead, they were cryogenically frozen. This nuclear holocaust, it won't actually kill everyone. Superman comes in and blows the radiation away, so he saves a bunch of people. You can do that sort of thing, but there are still only a certain number of there are only a certain number of superpowers. Here's Rubber Man, he can stretch a lot. Here's Desk Man, you can store things inside of his ass. At some point, you've run out of original ideas. You're going to be ripping some parts of it off at least. That's even a problem just in filmmaking in general. How many actual storylines can you have? You've got your great adventure. You've got your unlucky in love sort of situation. You've got your farce. You've got all these different sort of archetypal stories. You can bend them. They're malleable. There are only a certain number of them, though. So at some point, like Hollywood at this point, they don't even care about the story anyway. It's all CGI. But somebody posted a GIF last night, I think, of a scene from it. And then even the effects looked fairly standard. This was, I guess, supposed to be a really great scene. Effect-wise, it was all right, but it's no different than like any other modern franchise. It's not like they've introduced anything novel. The only novel thing that exists within this film is the fact that the cast is all black. That's the only novel thing about it. That itself is visibly, objectively, solely about race. It's not about the effects are good, the story is good, something novel was in the movie. It's just a superhero movie that happens to have black people in it. But the thing is, you often have a cast that includes robots that aren't even biologically human, aliens, weird creatures. This spider fell in a radioactive vat, and now the spider itself is, this Spider-Man's pet. Stuff like that. You have all sorts of stuff like that dude who's basically a boulder, or you have the Hulk, like at that point when he hulks out is even technically human. Okay, he's a fucking super mutant or something. You get that within these movies. It's like people are talking about, well, we don't have enough diversity in Hollywood, or Star Wars needs to be more diverse. It's like you look at A New Hope, half the characters you saw, if you saw their faces at all, were like fucking space aliens. I would say that's pretty diverse. It doesn't really matter who's wearing the mask, by the way. It could be, all of those people could be black. The Ewoks were like midgets. That's diverse. It's wonderful for people who happen to be really short, or did they use little kids for that? I can't remember. Sort of like Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz was great for the little people. But remember, you're racist if you don't think that this movie, by virtue of having an all-black main cast, is perfect. You must be totally racist. It's the only possible reason you could dislike this movie. It couldn't be that you don't generally like superhero movies. It couldn't be that it's just going to be mediocre, standard sort of, superhero slop. None of that matters. The fact that it's got a black cast is like Ghostbusters. You're a sexist if you thought that it was talentless, even though it was talentless. That's about all. Peace out.